Hi everyone, let's get into one of our monster hives over here. We got about 15 to 20 hives that are just way too large. They're probably going to want to start making swarm cells here in the next week or so, but we didn't get to them last summer and break them down and split them like we did most of our colonies. And that is why this colony right here is covering around 20 frames. But the problem is, gauging on going through the inspection earlier, I felt like there was maybe a gallon and a half of feed still in there. And we didn't feed this hive and many of the big hives over here any sugar syrup this fall. Everything that they've made it on so far is their own stuff. We have fed pollen patties and we're going to be doing that as well. But let's get in here and see what's going on. So we're going to be digging around. It is March the 4th, I believe it is, and there's been all kinds of beautiful pollens coming in from the elms. Maybe it's not the elms, I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure if they're blooming yet. There's a lot of bees right there. And then we've got the maples, we've got the willows, the dead nettle, pink pollens, yellow pollens, greenish yellow pollens, some bright orange pollens. So wow, look at this right here. But I'm really concerned about the feed levels in a colony this large in March when there's there's probably no nectar coming at all. They're going to starve. And a colony that's just beautiful and gorgeous and has all the potential that you could dream of could starve here in the next couple weeks. They are, we look at March as like, oh man, it's this awesome time, but nectar wise, we are pretty far removed from the last bit of nectar. And once we start getting into April here in Tennessee, we'll start getting some nectar. We might get a little bit towards the end of March. It really just depends on the year. Okay, so we have brood up here. Maybe even the queen, probably, unless she's dropped down below. Some queens will do that. Look at that. It's all kinds of brood, lots of fuzzy bees. If you don't know what that looks like, check these out right here. One fuzzy bee, two. They're young, their hair hasn't even dried out yet. All right, so, real quick, look at all these drones. One drone, two drone, three drone. They consume a lot of food, and it's great to have drones this time of the year. If a queen needs to go and mate, if the weather's good and she can fly, they could get mated this time of the year. It's still really sketchy. We have a bunch of days of rain coming up. The weather can drop really quickly this time of the year, so we don't raise queens early March like this. You see all this fresh pollen? They're stuffing in, they're turning some of it into bee bread. But they have just been able to fly yesterday and today. All of this has come from yesterday and today. Just truckloads of pollens. Nice bit of brood over here. Some of it hatching out. We're pushing 60 today, give or take. It's probably cooling down a little bit more now. All right, let's try to hurry this up a little bit. But we didn't have to feed this one at all. But our average colony strength in this yard is probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 frames of bees. We have some like this one that are just insane, and probably 15 or so like this. And then we have some that are 6 frames, and we have some that are 10 or 12 frames, a lot of in-between stuff. But overall, we're going to equalize these colonies out. This one is way too big. Oh, there's the queen right there. Awesome. What a good girl she is. So she's just been laying away. She's sticking her head down in the cells looking for somewhere to lay those eggs. But there's a problem with this frame, and you all need to be able to realize this. This is a hard lesson for new beekeepers to learn. Where's the honey? Where's the sugar syrup? A colony that's in a prime state of health, which usually is in spring, is going to have honey or nectar all around here. Now there's a little bit over here. The bees are going after it, but there should be a lot more than this. A healthy colony, and this colony is healthy, but if it's in true prime condition, there needs to be nectar or honey around the brood, and there needs to be a layer of pollen or bee bread. And I'm not seeing much of the honey especially, and they will starve out. This whole colony will just die real quick. This colony's eating a ton of food. Let's go down to the next box just a little bit. Okay, I gotta look at this frame first, sorry. Just can't help myself. These bees are a little bit testy. They've stopped foraging. And there's brood on the next frame over as well. And there's brood over here. The pattern's not the greatest. Now there's a lot of larvae down in there. That could be in part because they are low on feed. All right, let's shake this frame off really quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoke these bees a little bit so they don't get too testy with me. I'll stick this in at an angle and just there we go. All right, now see if you can see all those larvae down in there. But I believe the pattern is so poor. Well, it's not. The reason it's so varied in age groups, where you have capped brood and you have different ages, is because there's not enough nutrition. Where is the honey? They're holding back, and so they're just holding back. And that's all there is to it. Oh, there's a drone hatching out. See that one right there? I might have scraped the cap off when I shook it or something, but it's coming out. And you want to talk about something that eats a lot. Drones eat a lot. They are like my big red truck. They can fly fast, and my truck can haul a lot, but boy, they sure like to drink. All right, let's get these frames back in here. Now we've got to get a few things done to this colony. You probably see that bucket behind me. I've never used these before, but I purchased a handful of buckets from Dadent just to try out to see if I like them, because I've got several hundred frame feeders and they do a good job for me. But I want to see what the advantages are and if I should over time cycle the frame feeders out and go to the buckets. Plus, when people ask me, I like to have practical experience. So we are going to shake that off. Just makes it a lot easier. This right here is what's giving me trouble. You can see where all this drone brood, they've attached to the bottom of the frame. This right here is a queen cup. There's nothing in it, but I promise you within the next couple of weeks there will be on a colony like this. I'm just going to scrape up that drone brood, and any of the remains, they will consume that for the protein. That'll make it a whole lot easier for me to slide this frame down in there. But yeah, we've got to get some feed on this colony. There we go. That way we're not crushing any bees or potentially crushing our queen. All right, let me do a little more smoking. Let's go down to the next box. Ugh, it's just not very heavy. You know, it doesn't feel like there's more than a gallon or so in there. Look at all those bees. You know, and the queen, she can scatter the brood around a little bit too, because I know there was a lot of honey. I mean, going into winter, this box was solid. I mean, it was so heavy. We could have harvested it and then fed back sugar syrup. But one, I'm not the world's biggest fan of fall honey, and I really like letting the bees have that fall stuff for themselves. Okay, so there's just a little bit of brood in these frames down here. A lot of cap stuff. Well, not a ton, but there's some cap stuff. There's fuzzy bees all over the place, and so they're hatching out of this. Queen's up top. I just had one go up my shirt sleeve. Fantastic. It'll work its way out. All right, so we've pretty much seen everything that we want to see, but we need to do a thing or two. First of all, we need to feed a pollen patty. Now, some of you are like, well, you just said they're bringing in pollen, Kamon. Why in the world do you got to feed them pollen patties and whatnot? Well, I've looked at the weather forecast, and the next 10 days, like 6 or 7 of those is supposed to be rain. So if they can't get out and get pollen and they run out of there, what are they going to do with that brood? They are going to cannibalize some of the brood and hold the queen back if they run out. So what we're going to do, first of all, is score this patty. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is a whopper of a patty right here, but this colony can handle it. There's bees down in that bottom box too, probably only a couple frames worth. I don't know, I guess we can check real quick. Let's see what we've got down below. You know, that's not a whole lot of bees right there, but it's not too bad. But this box is a little light too. I'd say there's probably not half a gallon in that box. That's not going to work. This colony is going to starve. You guys think this is good and it looks good. I mean, just the eye test is like, oh man, this colony is going to make us all kinds of honey. I promise you, if we leave this hive alone, it is going to starve and not make a drop of honey. It is so light. It's been so mild though this year, that really is hard on the bees. Okay, this is a real trick right here. is getting this on without squashing any bees. Alright. Now we need to smoke this right here, and then we're going to show you how we're going to feed these bees. And I'm going to use an old piece of equipment that I have not used longer than, I guess, both of my kids' age put together. That's pretty scary. I'm getting old. Alright, scoot out of the way, bees. Alrighty. You can see how it pushed up against those frames right there. Now, this is pretty invasive right here. Oh, push that patty down. It's better if you roll them out flatter, or if you have a frame feeder or something. I'll push that down here in a second. I'm not very tall, so it's hard for me to get, you know, all my weight above it, so I'm going to step up on this thing right here. Get down in there. Yeah. See, Laurel is the patty maker, and I made that one myself. That was too big. She's got it down to an art form. Okay, so we've got to get a lot of weight on this colony, and quickly, because I doubt we're going to have any nectar until first week of April. That's it, any significance. Alright, so we have this little bitty notch here. Now this inner cover, when I purchased my first 5 hives from a fella, I got my, well, other dating smoker, and I got a bunch of inner covers, which I don't use, but it was something I kept around because it was still serviceable. And then I wax dipped it this year because I thought, you know what, I'm going to scrape this and wax dip it off and just use that. So that's pretty interesting. Oh, just been sitting in my dad's barn. Alright, so we have this bucket. Maybe the holes aren't big enough. I just punctured a handful right there. We're going to stick it over like this. You want to look down there, Laurel? You can kind of see it dripping out. And then it creates a vacuum. Yeah, there we go. And just set it right over the cluster. So right there, that is Pro Sweet Feed from Man Lake, and you can get it at Kelly's too. And you can get stuff at Dayton as well. All those places. And you know, honey's better, but they already ran through all their honey. They're going to starve if we don't do anything at all. Beautiful colony. You'd hate to see that hive die for sure. The colony right here is capable of producing a 5-frame nuke, no problem, and producing a full honey crop, which here could be 100 pounds of surplus on a good year. We'll just see how this year straightens up. But right here, two gallons of this is probably about 22, 24 pounds of feed. So hopefully that'll help straighten things up. Now we're going to have to come back later and see how that's filling up the hive. Hopefully doing pretty good. Coming in the next week, we'll see how quickly they take this down. That's the other thing is, okay, you know, it's going to get down in the 30s and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how well the bees take that down compared to a frame feeder. We'll just have to, I've never done a bucket feeder before, so this will be really interesting for both of us. I'll try to check back in a week on this bucket and see how quickly they've pulled that down. Now I've got obviously an old box right here, and then I've got a lid with some bees on it, so I'm going to knock those bees over there. It's still plenty warm enough they can walk around the hive or fly around. Stick that lid there. And we've had some tornadoes and windy weather. Thanks everybody who's been asking about us. And I'm going to stick a little brick up top just to kind of hold that lid down, and we're good to go. So I hate having to feed. Some of these over here, we're not having to feed at all. Few of them really are needing it because they've been burning through the stores. But shoot, it has been 40s and 50s all winter long, and the bees are just out running around and burning up honey. Whenever those bees are flying, they are burning honey. It's just like you driving your car around town with nothing better to do. So keep your kids inside. Make them read those bee books, and don't let them drag race through the square and my hometown and burn all that fuel up and keep me up late at night. Anyways, that's another story for another time. Thanks for watching our videos. If you have any comments and questions on what we've done here, leave them below.